Hello, and thanks for calling Challenger Learning Center. Our new site is located...
Challenger Learning Center, this is Becca.
Hi Becca, my name is Jim. I was just doing some research and I found out that there's Challenger centers all across the country. And yeah, I don't want to offend in any way. I just have a serious question that I hope you'll consider. And that's, don't you think that by constantly reminding kids of the Challenger explosion that in a way you're prolonging the trauma?
I do not, because I think there's positive things that can come from negative things or learning experiences. So no, I don't support your statement.
Okay. Yeah, my concern is that NASA is dishonest and that these Challenger centers are being used to indoctrinate kids into a cult by using trauma-based mind control.
I think that's wildly inaccurate, and I completely disagree, and we are not part of NASA. We're a nonprofit that functions on its own. So no, I disagree with your statement.
Okay, you think we've been to the moon and everything like that?
Do you think what?
You don't have any doubt that we haven't been to the moon?
No, I believe that we have been to the moon.
How come you think we haven't been back in so long? Well,
yeah,
you know about the Van Allen radiation belts, right?
I've heard of them, yes.
You know,
Are you calling all the centers, or you're just randomly calling to see who can connect with?
Just trying to connect and get an answer. You know, last night I was doing a bunch of research on June Scobie Rogers. Yeah, she's really on a mission to educate these kids about, you know, her beliefs. And my concern is that her beliefs really aren't backed up by testable, observable science. It's just backed up by cartoons and stuff that was filmed by, you know, it's just CGI stuff, what we're getting from NASA. And I think it's just a darn shame to see kids just being taught this stuff without any scientific evidence for it at all.
Well, I think part of our network is the fact that we're not necessarily educating the kids about different science and things that you might be referencing. We're actually working to inspire them to consider pursuing their own exploration. So we just show them some things that get them excited and hope that they go off on their own and pursue their interests on their own. So we're not necessarily teaching them, we're giving them experiences that should hopefully activate something cognitively and let them go off and explore on their own. So
yeah,
strange conversation I didn't think I was going to have today, but I actually have to go because we have a group coming in, so I need to go greet the teacher. So
okay.
Mission continues. Okay.
The mission was successful. The mission is what it was all about.
The crew of the Space Shuttle Challenger was dedicated to a mission inspired by education. Though these heroes were tragically lost, their mission would not be forgotten. The families of the crew created Challenger Center for Space Science Education, a way to honor their loved ones while keeping the educational mission alive.
When the kids are here, they realize that science is not something that's scary, and it's not just from a textbook, and this just reinforces the hands-on science that we do in the classroom, and the kids leave very enthusiastic and just loving science.
Challenger Center launches students into space every day, inspiring and engaging them in science, technology, engineering, and math.
This is Space Guide. We conduct a spectrum analysis of unknown objects.
The Challenger Learning Center does indeed make learning fun. It makes me feel kind of proud about myself because I can go back to school and I can share what I learned and show it.
When the students walk through the door of any one of the global centers, they are transformed.
We are starting the landing simulation.
Students command their own destinies by developing skills in decision-making, teamwork, problem-solving, and communication. skills needed for the 21st century.
The crew of the Space Shuttle Challenger honored us for the manner in which they lived their lives. We will never forget them, nor the last time we saw them this morning, as they prepared for their journey and waved goodbye and slipped the surly bonds of Earth to touch the face of God.
Go at throttle up.
NASA decided to bury the wreckage deep underground. Chinelli opened the sealed vault for the first time 2 years ago to pick just one object.
When you saw that piece, what did you think?
My heart fluttered. We saw a little piece of red.
The red of the flag.
The red of the flag. And then dusting it off, you could just see the flag come more into view. And then we knew we had it. This was the piece.
The exhibit also features the largest collection of personal objects from the two crews, loaned by 11 of the 14 families, a Star Trek lunchbox, a Cub Scout uniform, young adventurers who would become legends.
So it's important to get that sense of the magnitude of the sacrifice and the loss. So we redouble our efforts never to have this happen again.
But the same preservation company that worked on pieces of the Titanic prepared the shuttle wreckage for display. Now, NASA's decided not to promote or advertise the exhibit so as not to be seen as exploiting the tragedies. The display is now permanent. Nora?
Mark, wonderful reporting. What a great story.
Indeed.
I would love to go see that.
And it's important to know your history.
Absolutely.
In every way.
No, I remember watching the Challenger in 1986. My whole classroom watched, and then watching it explode, and teachers sort of trying to figure out what to do with everybody because it was so traumatic.
Well, as I said, you can't bury the past, right?
Right.
So
Indeed.
important to remember.
We were frozen in shock, and it was a while before we learned that no one survived.
You had your family here, including your son, who is now a general. And Mom pulled rank on him before and said you were going to do this TV interview. So thank you, Mr. Rich, for doing it. Come on over here. You were what age when this happened?
Ken, I was 21 at the time, a senior at the Air Force Academy.
And what ran through your mind?
You know, I'd been very fortunate. My family had introduced me to a lot of things. So I was actually already a pilot at the time and had an opportunity to fly with both my parents before this happened. So I was very familiar with aviation and the risks involved.
You were in limbo as a family for a long time because everyone saw what happened, but I'm sure you had, the best thoughts in mind that everyone was going to come out okay. When you got the news, what was that like?
You know, it was a tough day all around. Even though it was 30 years ago, it seems like it just happens, fresh in our memories. But what I would say is, anybody who's lost somebody that they love, they know what it's like. Whether it's a long illness or something that's unexpected, that feeling of loss is the same. Ours was just very public, and we shared it with the nation who was in mourning with us, which I derive a lot of strength from that. And there are great people in our country, and we're lucky to be part of it.
Did your husband ever talk about fear or about what if?
Dick Scobie was a test pilot. He was accustomed to taking risks. Once a reporter asked him that question, "Are you scared?" And he said, "Only when a reporter asked me to talk to them."
So he had a pretty good sense of humor as well.
He did, didn't he?
That's for sure.
So how does a family recover after something like this?
I can answer that question. You have a strong matriarch that takes charge of your family, that's for sure. And that's what my mom did, not only for our family, but for all the families of the crew. And she was really that voice that spoke for us all. And that was nice. It was somebody that we could all look to for guidance into the things that were happening in the future. And all strong families, all great people. But for us, it was definitely my mom that pulled us together.
And then the joy of our deciding that we want the world to know how they lived, not just how they died. We wanted to create something in their memory, a tribute to them, and that's why we created these Challenger Centers all over the country. You have two of them here in Florida, in Tallahassee and Jacksonville. So students celebrate that mission for the Challenger crew every day when they got to fly their own mission, and then they learn about the skills that are important and the concepts that the teachers are accountable for teaching when they go on their own mission at a Challenger Center.
And that's really the next generation. Who knows who we're speaking to, who knows who we're educating or sparking them to go on to things like your husband or your dad did.
Right. Absolutely, Kim, that's true. And one of the great lessons from Challenger was it was the Teacher in Space program. And the whole, our country could learn so much and model so much from what they were doing and how they grew up in education to get to where they were. But it's the space, the technology, the whole science behind it, and the communication skills required to be able to relay that knowledge to everybody else is something that I think is enduring with that mission far beyond anything it was at the time. So.
General, thank you. Ms. Scobie-Rogers, thank you. It was a great pleasure talking to
Thanks,
both
Ken.
of you. And not to get too saccharine about it, but I think this is really, look at this family. This is what makes America really a great place to live. And, who knows what the next generation is going to do just half as much as this guy did. I think we're going to be in pretty good shape. Back to you.
That's good.
My name is Secretary Matt Malone.
Well, yeah, I'm just really happy to be here with you today for this learning experience. This is pretty cool, isn't it? Yeah, we need to do more stuff like this, don't we? Why? Why do you like it? Hands-on. I like it. That was exactly it. I have nothing else to say now. Yeah. Why do you like it? He said hands-on, add to it. Cool things, exciting. Give me a word. It begins with an R, and then it has an E, and then an A, and an L. Real. Real. Real world. This is real world, hands-on. Did you work as a team?
Yeah.
Is that important?
Yeah.
Was it project-based?
Yeah.
It was pretty cool. This is the kind of teaching and learning we want to see across the Commonwealth.
And